telling somebody who's worked with staff for 15 or 20 years that I will look after your people and they will be happy. And here's 20 staff you can go and talk to who will vouch for that we live and breathe this stuff. It's massively important to us.
So when you go for an acquisition, so for instance, Joe Blogg's telecom company gets referred from you by one of your previous acquisitions, and they come to you and they say, yeah, Matt, I'm interested in sort of speaking to you. What happens? What's the process? What do you start looking for? Is it the numbers? Is it the people? Do you go meet them? Talk me through it.
So typically what we'll do is I'll say, look, let's try and have a chat. So we'll either chat briefly. So I've got a situation like that I'm dealing with at the moment. So I've been introduced by somebody who we've done a deal with in the last 12 months. They phoned me up and said, look, John's called me up and he said he'd like to talk to you. Can I do an introduction? Yes, you can. So we've had a 40-minute call on the phone. So mobile exchange, voicemail there, voicemail back, chat. And the first thing we've done is talk about. So one of my first questions I always ask people when I talk to them is, where are you today? Because people aren't in the office anymore. It's sort of come out, where are you today? I mean, I'm on the M6 or I'm waiting at an airport or I'm in the local coffee shop.
Why'd you ask that?
And just because I think for me, moving away from face-to-face meetings and doing stuff more remotely, I think takes the personality and the connection out of the situation. If I come to, I know where you are because I'm sat with you. If you're on a video screen, I don't know where you are. And if you want to say to me, actually, Matt, that's none of your business. I'm fine with that. But it's a really easy, not
confrontational,
non-invasive way of starting a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
So where are you today? Oh, I'm such and such. I'm going to do this. All right. Okay. Well, how's your day going? Fine. Lots of people I'm talking to at the moment have been to their kids' graduations in the last, of a generation. Lots of that. And my daughter has graduated twice in the last 2 months. Once because she finished last year and there were no graduation ceremonies, and then she's done something after university for a year. And so you end up talking about that. You end up talking about people's kids. Our primary value in our business is family first. So it's really important that people understand that that's important to us, and so we talk about sort of, what do you do when you're not at work? So the first 20 minutes isn't about the business, it's about the people.
About them.
And we have this, if you look at our criteria for acquiring businesses, we like to buy really high quality businesses from people that we like. Really high quality businesses that fit in our strategy from people that we like. And if you don't tick all three of those, we're not the right buyer. It doesn't mean yours isn't a good business. Far be it from me to judge that. And we have some strict criteria around quality revenue. How much is recurring? How much is in the cloud? What do the customers look like? Do we think we can sell to them? Are they the right fit? Does it fit geographically with us? And do we like you? And if I like you as a person, you'll probably like me as well. And that means I'll probably like your staff, and your staff will probably like me, and you'll like the people who I work with, and they'll probably like you. And it's a really easy, and I think human beings can work that sort of stuff out really, really quickly. I don't think there's a science to it, but you work it out. We either get on or we don't, and that works out. So conversations like that, get to know the person, then get to know what it is that you're going to be talking about, and then get to know the business. So the next thing is to go and spend time with someone and just tell me about.
You go and visit the customer.
Absolutely.
You have to go and visit the office environment.
Not necessarily. People are a bit understand. Well, through COVID, it's been a bit odd because all the rules have changed. Yeah, you can come to the office. There's nobody there, but the last thing they want is me turning up with my Babble registration, parking outside their office, and it's like, who's that Scottish guy? Does that mean we're getting acquired? So we usually insist on visiting the offices before we're quite, just to check they exist and what they feel like. You get a feel for places. Some of this, the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah.
What is hard to quantify in any sort of scientific way is all of the stuff that sits around that. So tell me a little bit about the numbers. How big is it? Right. Okay. Da, da, da. And then conversation. And then very quickly after that, look, this is what we would pay for that. And,
how quickly is that assessed? Is it
in 10 minutes?
That quick?
Yeah. This is.
So I like you. I can do the business. I've seen the environment. I've looked at the numbers.
This is what we would pay for this.
How do you ascertain that? What is it? A figure? Is it a times variable? How does it work?
It depends on the business that you're buying, but it's effectively, what do I think that will look like as part of Babble? Right. What do I think the post synergy EBITDA contribution will be? What does that look like from a multiple? And then how do I validate that valuation in another way that means I'm not doing something really stupid here? So how do I look at the GP, or how do I look at the recurring revenue? And because we do this all the time, we can have, and there's, if you look at the industry that we operate in, there's thousands, if not tens of thousands of businesses, and there's probably one, if there isn't one being acquired today, I'll be amazed. So there'll be hundreds of transactions in the space every year, and that there's a market. There's a market rate for what these sorts of things. And if somebody goes off and checks, they'll be able to check and say, and we know that we are prepared to pay top quartile if that's what we need to do for something. So, and we tend to be very straight. I tend to be very straight. This is how I've valued this mark. This is how I've ended up with this number. And, and every so often we had a situation a few weeks ago where we looked at something and we really liked it. And we said, we want to meet management. I came back and said they've had an offer which was 50% higher than we would normally look at. And I went round and round and round in circles with it and said, right, okay, if somebody else is prepared to pay that, there's obviously something there that I'm not quite getting. And even if I took all of the parameters and stretched them as far as I possibly could, I was still 10% shy, and that was me pushing everything. So if I push the multiple as high as I can, if I maximize the GP to EBITDA flow through as far as I can, if I look at this and value it on the basis of that set of numbers rather than, if I look forward rather than backwards, and I was still, and you've just got to say, I can't get there. And, now, if the seller has a problem, we're here. But sometimes stuff just doesn't, it just doesn't fit.
So when out of the sort of 19 you've done, is there any ones you sort of think, God, I got that badly wrong, or it's gone better than I thought, or are they all like, actually, I paid that, that's what I expected, and that's what I've got?
So there's nothing I would look at that says we got it horribly wrong or it's knocked it out of the park. You get nuances. So they've done a bit better than you would have expected, or not quite as well as you would have expected. Right. And we've had, one of our things about this, Mark, is how are we constantly and continuously improving how we go about this stuff. So, we go back, we revisit, how do we do this better? Could we, and if you look at some of the stuff we did in the first half of last year, that second lockdown, I think everybody found really, the first one when the sun was shining and it was a bit of a novelty and nobody really knew what was going to go on. Nobody knew what is this the end of the world coming? So we might as well have fun. That second one in January, February 21, when it was cold and it was dark and it just we could be in this for months and months. I mean, if you remember, my perspective on this, the first time round we all thought it would be over in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The second time round, this
could go over a year.
We could be here for the rest of time.
Yeah,
and at some stage there has to be a reckoning around it, but. So we did a couple of deals at that time where we didn't do as good a job on the integration as we could have done. So, if you look at that, some of those businesses haven't performed as well as we'd like them to, but that's not down to what we bought. It's down to what we did with it. You know, so there's nothing. You know, bearing in mind we're buying, you know, recurring. We're 95% recurring revenue business. So most of this stuff is reasonably predictable and reasonably sticky. So we haven't had a car crash, and we haven't had that's great. I didn't expect that. So we kind of sit in there and you know we integrate everything that we buy. We integrate it as fast as we possibly can. And, you know, sometimes you've got to look at what did you think the whole was going to look like post-transaction, rather than how's that business there performing, because that's quite difficult to do once you've done the integration.
What would you say, Matt, is the key lessons if someone was looking to sell their business? And they'd probably be overvaluing it anyway. Everyone thinks they've got a better business than they've got. But if they're trying to sell their business, or you're trying to buy a business, what's the key lessons you've got to sort of think about before you go into that? Because a lot of people, they've got a business, they've owner managed, I've got a business owner managed, organically growing. If I sort of thought about an acquisition, I just wouldn't know where to start. So what's the key lessons you've got to learn about?
So, you know, key lesson on the sell side. So you're selling a business, and this is from somebody who's been on the sell side and on the buy side. You know, I've been involved in a non-exec or BJF back business that was sold to an American private equity-backed software firm. You know, we I guess I've been a buyer and seller twice in what we do. You cannot over prepare. You just can't. You know, you whatever you do, it won't be enough. and get properly organised and do it properly. Number two is you can't overpay advisors. You can't overpay a lawyer. Hire the best lawyer you can find. Don't try and do that on the cheap, because it will just bite you. I promise you, it'll bite you. So, you know, and find people who know how to do this stuff and can point to people who you've done it with. You know, everybody says, "Oh, yeah, I've bought companies before." Yeah, they have. You can buy a company from Companies House this morning. That doesn't mean that you've run a complex sale process with a Magic Circle law firm on the other side with a private equity investor who won't. There are certain things that are absolute deal breakers for businesses like mine that seem unreasonable. And you know, we hear on a regular basis, when my lawyer says this isn't market. So I don't give a shit what the lawyer says. Yes. I mean, I really don't. I'm telling you now, we will not do the deal without that happening. Oh, right. Well, so it doesn't, you know. So advisors, high quality advisors, sell side corporate finance person, it's a fee. You'll see it coming out of your end, but they will do a lot of the work. One of the things that I think the mistake that some people make is they spend all the time focusing on the deal and forget that they're still trying to run a business. So it goes back to my shiny new things blog. Everybody thinks we're going to sell, and what happens is, you know, as many deals fall over as complete during the process. So if you've spent 3 months just focusing on the sale process, and the deal doesn't happen, you come back and you've got this mess to tidy up, and it will take you a year, 2 years, 3 years to get back to where you were. So having somebody who's going to do all that work for you and charge you, you know, a fairly significant it depends on the size of your business, but a five-figure sum, that, you know, if the deal doesn't go right, that's much, much cheaper than trying to rebuild your business from scratch. It's a much lower, and find somebody who knows what they're doing, who's done it before, who's done something in your space that you can reference on the buy and sell side. So, you know, and then the fourth piece of advice is don't tell anyone. There's only one way to keep a secret.
Yeah, keep it. For the seller, don't tell anyone you're trying to sell.
We don't tell anybody. You know, we buy business. We don't tell anybody. We don't tell any of our staff what we're doing
until it's done.
And sometimes we don't tell Babble employees until we've spoken to the sell side employees. So I will go and stand in a room and spend time with them before we'll even tell the Babble employees, because that, you know, it's just the right way to treat people. So we keep it very tight and And then on the buy side, have a plan. Just have a plan. Where do you want to be in 3 years' time? What does that mean you need to have done by this time next year? What do you need to be doing today? Just buying something for the sake of it because it's flattering. It just doesn't work. You need a plan.